And we have come to the absolute worst episode of The Mandalorian Season 1 in my review series with Episode 5 called The Gunslinger. And I will say I wasn't expecting an episode on Tatooine to be this bad, especially considering that a lot has happened since the original trilogy. It was a very prominent planet in the original trilogy. It, of course, also appeared in the prequels and in Clone Wars and Rebels and everything. But yeah, for some reason, it didn't really work too well for this episode. And I'll get into exactly the specifics. But before I do, I just want to let you know I've been doing my reviews of The Mandalorian for a couple of weeks now. If you missed any of the episodes, I would recommend you to go back to those because I'm starting to get to a point where I need to refer to past reviews that I did going into the next one. So you might want to just brush yourself up on what you've missed if you've missed it. Also, I want to point out the set behind me. Look at that. Look at that big, beautiful Lego set. This is going to be built very, very soon in several live streams. I'm going to have to do several live streams. It's so big. I'm not going to be able to do that in one live stream. So look out for that as well if you're interested in Lego builds. But anyway, the episode starts off with a bit of a skirmish between Din in the Razor Crest and another bounty hunter chasing him. And, well, what I said in the previous review, I don't really understand why Din is not dealing with, like, enemy bounty hunters, enemies after him, that kind of stuff. Because everyone is after Grogu, and they're going to be after Grogu. Like, everyone has a tracking fob, it seems. So he needs to deal with it, and, well, one more episode after this before he actually does get to deal with it. But yeah, he takes out the other guy, but not without sustaining some injuries on the Razor Crest, and therefore he has to land on Tatooine. The big return to Tatooine. As I already pointed out, Tatooine has been a planet that we have seen in pretty much every single thing of Star Wars, whether it's TV shows, movies, books, comics, everything. Tatooine is one of the most prominent, most important places in Star Wars. So, yeah, at one point we had to return to this planet. Actually, the Mandalorian returns there several times. And, of course, the entire Book of Boba Fett is set here. I'll get into that later. He lands here, and Tatooine, actually, as I said, is kind of an important place going forward. Not specifically for this show, but even more so for the Book of Boba Fett. But also the character of Peli Motto, because, yeah, she appears for the first time in this episode, and it's funny because she seems like a very natural fit. She's played by Amy Sedaris, that's the name of the actress. I think she actually fits extremely well in the universe. They did a phenomenal job, by the way, on makeup and hairstyling for her because she looks like she fits into Star Wars, and I've actually seen her in a couple of other things, and I didn't see her in those other things until after The Mandalorian, and I was like, hey, I recognize you. Oh, she's in The Mandalorian. She looks completely different in those things. Like, her look is very different from how she looks in here, but they made her look like this so that she fits in Star Wars, and the way she acts, the way she looks, is perfect. I honestly think she's a very good addition to the Star Wars universe, so it was nice to have a character like that, at least, unlike the other character. I'll get into that in a moment. So she is looking after Grogu while Din goes into the cantina. Yes, the actual cantina from the original Star Wars, of course. We had to go back there because member berries and all that kind of stuff. It's okay, though. It's not the worst thing. I'm not really saying it as a criticism. It's just, yeah, it's noticeable. And here we meet the worst character of The Mandalorian.
He was.
Of this season. It is Toro Calican, played by Bobby Cannavale's son, and I'm not going to refer to him as anything else because he very much got the job because he is Bobby Cannavale's son. Now, Bobby Cannavale, I've seen in a couple of things. He's a fine actor. I think he actually is quite funny in a couple of comedies. Other than that, I don't really think too much of him, but I very much got the feeling that he and, well, the agent, everyone around his son, pushed to have him be in something. But what is actually quite interesting is that before The Mandalorian, this guy wasn't in anything, and after The Mandalorian, this guy wasn't in anything. And why is that? Oh, right, because he has absolutely no acting chops whatsoever. Doesn't really run in the family. The guy who plays Toro Calican is terrible. I really hate him. And I hate it even more that he is so prominent in this episode. Like, he is the second biggest character besides Din. And I'm like, okay, this is not the right guy to cast. Like, I get he's a one-off, but there could have been a more charismatic, better actor in that role. So yeah, it's what it is. He has a bounty puck and he wants to get into the guild. So the bounty puck is for Fennec Shand, another character introduced in this episode, and she is going to be quite prominent, as we know, especially in the Book of Boba Fett, but also throughout the Mandalorian. And, well, Fennec is played by a very good actress, Ming-Na Wen. Probably my favorite Disney princess, or at least one of my favorites in Mulan. So I like her. I think she's a good actress. I think she fits the role well. The one criticism that I kind of have against more so the character rather than the actress is that she was exposed a lot right after this aired. Because, well, of course, she is in this episode, but then she gets resurrected and she is in the next season as well. Then she is in all of the Book of Boba Fett, and then she also became a very prominent character in the Bad Batch. And I was like, okay, this is a lot of Fennec. I even think there were like comics and books perhaps that she might have featured in. And in a very short amount of time, we got a lot of Fennec, which I'm okay with. It's just, it was a lot at once. And I also felt that maybe she had been underutilized a bit, especially in the Bad Batch. I think the Bad Batch could have done something more interesting. I should really get back into reviewing that. I didn't very much finish reviewing the Bad Batch. I should get into that. But either way, yeah. Fennec Shand, fine character, played by Ming-Na Wen. Also, she looks amazing. Like, I think she was about 60, almost 60, when she filmed the scenes for this season, and she looks amazing. So, good on her. I was also very glad to see her be extremely happy and giddy and like a fangirl at Star Wars Celebration, because she hosted the panel that I actually attended, the Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary panel. She was so happy. It was very cool to see her. So it very much is a good thing when you have actors who really like being in a role and portraying a role and being in a franchise and also working out, because the thing is, like, she's an absolute badass as Fennec. So that's cool. But anyway, she shows up a little bit later in the episode. First, Din and Toro need to get there. They go on speeder bikes, and while they're on the speeder bikes, they encounter some Tusken Raiders. Because, of course, it's Tatooine. Makes sense. Now, this is where Din has sign language as another language he knows. This is something that I already pointed out earlier in the season when he was able to speak Jawa. This is another thing. Keep it in mind. I'll come back to this later. Anyway, so Din has a plan to get Fennec, and the plan works. They get to Fennec, and in negotiating the entire situation, Din is the one who has to go away, which allows Toro to be stupid, to be talked into something by Fennec herself. He kills Fennec, of course, doesn't really. I'll get back to that at the very end of the review. And then he goes back, but that gets himself killed, and that's really all I care about. Goodbye, Toro. I will not miss you. And I kind of feel that, in a sense, you know, Toro and the guy who plays him are similar because, well, they're both kind of failures. Of course, Toro was written that way. Bobby Cannavale's son wasn't, but it ended up the same anyway. So, yeah. Point is that Din is all good at the end. Peli gets paid, all good. And then, of course, the big reveal of Boba Fett saves Fennec. Actually, that's not a review in this episode just yet, but now years later we know that, because initially when I watched this episode, I had no idea that was Boba Fett. I just saw someone step up to Fennec and save her, and you know that is going to come back later in whenever. But of course, then in the Book of Boba Fett, it's fully revealed. Now, I will get into the entire thing later with Boba Fett, Fennec, and everything, because I don't feel right now is really time to talk about that. I definitely have thoughts about that. Believe me, I'll get to it. But at the end, what a waste of an episode. Unfortunately, I don't want to say that, but yeah. First of all, the episode is once again extremely short, which on the one hand is a good thing because it makes sure that I have to see Toro Calican less in this episode because he's an absolute waste of character. But on the other hand, it's annoying because back in the day we were only getting one episode a week, and this is yet again clocking in at under half an hour. So, yeah, not a great episode. It does a couple of things for the shows going forward, I should say, because of course it's woven into the entire Book of Boba Fett. But, it's not a very good episode, unfortunately. So, yeah, it's not all bad, but overall it's just, not really. But that's my thoughts. I have ranted, I have given my piece, so that is what I have to say about The Gunslinger. I wonder, what are your thoughts? Do you like it maybe? Is there maybe something I'm missing? Please let me know in the comments below. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for more Star Wars content, and of course, until my next video, may the Force be with you.